So she poisoned the husband and then married about another 5. And they were all generals. They were all generals. But suddenly Arachi looks at the sun and the sun's eyes are in a little bit bluish. Similar to that engineer of the British.
What happened there? Welcome viewers to another episode of Navigating Polygamy. I'm here in Sri Lanka and I managed to attend a conference talking about capital markets in Sri Lanka. Being the shameless opportunist that I am, I try to link capital markets with our favorite subject, polygamy. And I just couldn't think of a way to do that. Until I met my new friend, Jithendra Antonio, a man with many skills, as I learnt during that conference. He has written books, he has set up companies, and he has done so much for the capital markets in Sri Lanka. And I realized that he is the man to bring polygamy and capital markets together. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fazal.
It was so nice to have you here, and it was really nice to meet you.
I feel very much privileged to be joining your podcast, and also a very important topic.
Very important topic. Yeah. So before we get into the topic, tell the audience and our viewers a little bit about yourself, your personal life, your professional life, so that we get a background into who the man Jithendra is.
Well, if I go back to my early age, I always loved reading a lot, and I always thought there is always a connection between every incident in historical sense. So, like Mark Twain says, history rhymes, and also history repeats again and again. So I try to bridge a connection between historical events, historical characters, and how that outcome or their results impact on the future. So overall, my career spans into public affairs, public relations, capital markets advisory, and then working in the investment banking industry, also with an added CV of IT and in ICT sector. My content have impacted on regulating the capital market. I've also helped several companies to explore their full potential. I introduced myself as a consultant in the industry of investment banking, as well as the public relations and communications industry.
And now polygamy also.
Yeah, polygamy. Of course, thanks to Fazal, something that I've explored. Well, today in the discussion, I will also share some literature in the Sri Lankan context, where a lot of polygamical, polygyny, or either polyandry, both the effects have impacted
the societies.
In the society as well as the reign of Sri Lanka.
Right.
Just to give you a little bit of a teaser to the subject, Sri Lanka created South Asia's first queen with most executive power.
Really?
I'll speak about it when we go through the subject.
Before you do that, just tell us a little bit about the book you wrote on capital markets.
So I wrote a book about Godfather's advice on crypto and capital markets.
Okay, remember that.
Yeah?
Remember that, everybody.
So because the reason is, even a country or a geopolitical destination or even a kid needs a godfather in life. Generations are emerging. They will always need some advice. Godfather may not be entirely correct. So this book is like a guidance.
But as you spoke about guidance, I know somebody else who's also written a book on guidance, specifically about polygamy.
Right.
Okay, so let's do something now. Let's have a seat and let's dive into the subject. So, Jithendra, tell me something, right?
Yeah.
Can polygamy be looked at from a perspective of market strategy, similar to how we look at capital and equity?
Of course, you see the most exponential growth is coming from when you enter a market and start trading on stocks, etc., when you acquire, when you possess certain assets, when you look at balance sheets. So in the same sense, when you look at companies, you acquire on a long-term perspective, medium-term, or in a short-term perspective. Same way, you can look at the polygamy as a way of acquiring assets. One of the two famous billionaires, the world's richest man, Elon Musk. Now he has about 15 wives from various nations. Imagine someone who has, read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica at the age of 9, 10, and then thinking about this kind of a concept while he's expanding his business portfolio. So there is a concept behind polygamy at the end of the day, is that acquisition of knowledge, wisdom, and courage to survive. So when you survive, you feel like your entire skill set has to be with someone. And then you realize it shouldn't be only limited to a certain people. So you want to multiply. Diversification. It is like the market diversification. You have a diversified portfolio, diversified set of wives. At the end of the day, when you look at jurisdictions, geopolitical destinations. Sometimes marriage could be only a certificate. Marriage is not the real connection. The connections lies between mutual understanding, how you understand the person, and what kind of things that you brought together. That whole byproduct is coming with your offspring.
To add value also.
Yeah,
to
add
your-
value.
yeah.
So it is value addition, and then your, as I said, knowledge, wisdom, courage is transferred to other generations. So this is where the polygamy is playing an important role. The world's largest democracy, we call it, is India, where there is almost more than a billion population, 1.5 billion almost. India and Sri Lanka have had closer connections, like a merger and acquisition, M&A. And time to time, we have capitalized on the leverage opportunities, leverage buyouts. You bring that connection where Sri Lankan and Indian leverage in terms of polygamy also comes into play. We can explain this connection between Hinduism and Sri Lanka and the polygamy as a cosmic corporate. Let's go back to the ancient rishis of Hinduism lived. So the people who were born to Brahma, one of the greatest rishis was Pulastya, Rishi Pulastya. And then his entire bloodline is coming from Sri Lanka. They say in the storyline, he was on a meditational situation, but there was a female, one of the king's daughter was walking around in the same place where he was. And he sort of said that if something is distracted, then that person will be immediately pregnant. All the others were going around. There were a lot of ladies going around, but then this particular woman impressed him. And then because of his word, we call it the curse in that language, then suddenly this lady was pregnant.
Without any
Yeah, it's
intimate
like
contact. But this is all mythology,
mythology,
right? Yeah?
yeah.
Don't think that's going to work for you guys, right?
Yeah. Even if you meditate, it might not work. So then Rishi got son called Vishrava. Vishrava is also a similar way. He's like a guardian deity for Sri Lanka. He's father of this Ravana and Kumbhakarna. So this Vesamuni has even chance to attract women and all that. So it's about attracting assets. When we talk about these cosmic corporations from Pulastya to Vesamuni to Ravana, they have had multiple wives. Most of the stories that if we study in the history, as I said, the wars have turned out initially because of probably a polygamic effect. The Roman Catholicism. King Henry VIII wanted to marry a couple of wives. Then his religious advisor in UK said, no. Then he said, look, I don't want your religion. I will start my own thing. So this is the start.
Okay.
Right? As we see, this is about leveraging finance. We come to King Saud. He married, according to records, about 25 women from various tribes. What was the reason? He united the oil power. Then it gives up to today what? 5,000 community. And today we have the greatest king in the south. But I see his vision as a great vision, Visionary.
So tell me, how did polygamy function in Sri Lankan society, especially amongst the kings and in the Kandyan highlands?
Yes, polygamy was practiced at large in Sri Lanka. Obviously, our kings had harems. It was like portfolio diversification again. Parakram Bahu VI, the ancient king who lastly united Sri Lanka, he was appointed by the Ming dynasty, but he even had a Chinese wife.
Really?
Yeah, so that we have a Chinese line. And if you look at that entire family tree, couple of generations later, most of the governing neoliberal political party has emerged from that bloodline.
And the Kandyan era was approximately when?
Kandyan era was after around 15th century. There has been a drama very famous. It's a book also. It's called Jithendra, where there was a concept called in Kandyan times Ekagay Kama. There was a time that Sri Lankans face lack of males. Number one, because invading British, Portuguese, Dutch, they were killing soldiers, kings, the people for the next generation of rulers.
Because usually men who die in war.
Yeah.
Right?
Then there was this Ekagay Kama concept where the woman marries one brother, eldest brother most likely, and then the younger brothers also have the same woman. When the kids were born, you were unable to identify
Who's the
father. So in Sri Lanka, we have a GE name. You have this colonial family names, and then you have the original family names coming from your ancient times. So GE names became LAGE, Lage.
Okay.
Lage means you had multiple fathers who you were unable to identify your correct father. Queen Anula. So she was someone who had the desire to have the other way. We can call it a little bit of polyandry because she was living with one royal husband and then she was not happy. So she poisoned the husband and then married about another 5. And they were all
Adventurous woman.
generals. They were all generals.
How many you want? 5 husbands? Huh?
Generals, and at last, then she was not too happy. She became the queen. She was the first queen in Asia with extreme power. And however, at her last stages, it's written in our Sri Lankan Mahavamsa too, at the height of a collapse, when people were not happy with the rule, etc., she was still enjoying her royal privilege with 30 different men.
I think that's the situation we face today, a lot of men face today, where their extreme power is not with the husband, but it's with the wife.
Wife.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Jitendra, I made a point in my book, and I also make this point in some of my talks when I talk about polygamy, about the impact that colonialism had in the institution of polygamy, right? Tell me, from the Sri Lankan context and the Sri Lankan history, right? Obviously, Sri Lanka was colonized by the British, right? How did that impact plural marriages? Did it survive? How was it? Did the marriages adapt as a result of colonialism?
Say, for an example, you are a hedge fund. The founder achieves a certain extent in his wealth, and then the regulators start controlling him. But then what does he do? He start a family office. He start family offices by his other backdoor operations, and then there is the concept of shadow banking, and cross holdings, venture capital, offshore family offices, etc. Like that, there was a resilient move. Royal family officers, they started practicing is in a niche market.
Right.
Say example, the Muslim community in Sri Lanka, still they are able to practice that.
But
Legally.
Right.
But the other communities, they practice that differently. So even some corporate level, even listed company chairman in Sri Lanka, they manage the same level. We can't say it is illegal, but it is, they have found that the market.
That niche.
Yeah, so sometimes when you achieve certain status in finance, you need to look out for other options. We have this term in Sri Lankan context, I don't know whether you have heard about it. You can't eat the same fried rice every day. Neither you can't eat the same kuttu every day. We have egg hoppers, we have
so many different
honey hoppers.
Variety. Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah. So
right?
At the end of the day, it's the dopamine effect. Coming back where we started, the Berunda Paksha, it's a mythical creature with 2-headed and more like a mutant itself, looks like a mutant. But there is a huge history behind it with Hinduism itself. Same title, there is a Sri Lankan movie. This movie depicts a Sri Lankan village ruler. We call it the Arachi. So Arachi has 2 wives, and then he has not been able to provide a offspring, which takes his line. This was the same time the British were coming with market rules like putting etc. for these family companies. So Arachi obviously had a couple of villages, so he had a lot of assets. Some villagers come because of these wives. So these 2 wives encourage him to get their younger sister. So Arachi, in pursuit of happiness as well as bringing a next of kin to him, so he marries this girl. So the movie ends, child is born to this youngest lady, and Arachi is still cursing the British because they are taking over the lands, it's invasion. Still Arachi is happy now, I have a son. But suddenly Arachi looks at the son, and the son's eyes are a little bit bluish. Similar to that engineer of the British.
What happened there?
Then Arachi ends up, going to his own temple at his own land, committing suicide. And it shows sort of cohabitation. Obviously, now British want to take over. So if they want to take over, they have to hijack the hierarchy of the royals in Sri Lanka.
Just to sort of finish it off here, right?
Yes.
What are the types of social and economic dynamics, the controversies that we see from such systems here?
You see that in a company there are levels of shareholders. Same way, these multiple wives had levels of shareholding, taking away the legacy.
Influence.
Yes. And also the way of influencing your chief, the main wife. Main wife had sometimes power, but then again sometimes someone you love maybe from a different subsector. Then you want to give them certain powers. Certain powers are given to certain others. It has been there in Sri Lankan context too, that post-colonialism as well as in colonialism, sometimes the man has multiple wives. When you diversify, you have multiple wives, maybe the second, third generation, you have a uniformity. And then again, your own blood may be getting married after 4th generation. We never know. Then a new set of skills come. because certain absorptions have been there, some knowledge have been acquired from certain other genes. It's like that. If we talk about the people who have disrupted this system in a different way, think about in a global context, Elon Musk and the founder of Telegram, they are creating this culture again. They have having multiple wives. One has donated their sperms and want to make 100 kids. They have a clear mind, and then they want to preserve this system also for the growth of the world. At the end of the day, mutual understanding plays a larger role in any relationship. So if you feel that you don't want to disrupt this system, the system of marriage, so you want to have only one wife, then maybe you can try this being single.
I think I like to use the word navigation.
Navigation.
Because you know that we have to navigate this whole system.
Navigate whole system.
And speaking of navigation, I've written a book on navigating polygamy called Married 2, 3, and 4, and it's available here on Amazon, Kobo, and Lulu. Buy it. Don't forget to buy it.
And I must say, I really enjoy reading it.
I want to say thank you so much for joining us in this episode. It was a real pleasure meeting you. Please buy his book called
Godfather's Advice on Capital and Crypto Markets.
Godfather's Advice on Capital and Crypto Markets, right?
But obviously, I will try to write a book on what I spoke today too.
Of course,
about Sinhalese polygamy. It's a nice subject to take to the world.
Right.
And they can cultivate this system in a financial sense too.
Of course. Yeah, because everything is about the money at the end of the day.
Money
Right?
at the end of the day. And if you want to have multiple wives, you need a lot
of money, right? Of course,
money.
definitely. So we said this in my book, right? If you want to have multiple wives, you have to have a lot of money. He's the expert on money. He can make you a lot of money. And if he makes you a lot of money, you can have a lot of wives as well. If you want, of course, right? Anyway, my viewers, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that we will see you soon in future episodes in the Navigating Polygamy series. Take care and see you soon. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.